Yuki Wakura is that idiot whose life went from zero to monster chow real quick. Being the prime opposite of an alpha male, he must obey a girl to become a demon. Everything changed when he's almost eaten by a monster. Lucky for him, he's saved by Kyuka Uzen, a smoking hot warrior from the all-female anti-demon corps, but things spice up when she slaps a collar on him and makes him her personal servant. Now Yuki's stuck battling monsters, following orders, and surviving a partnership that's equal parts chaos and way too steamy. The anime kicks off with Yuki Wakura, a pathetic excuse for a human being, whining about his miserable life while cleaning the classroom. His so-called friends, who look like they were designed to be forgotten immediately, mock him because they've decided Yuki is their personal janitor. To be fair, Yuki seems to have some next-level cleaning skills like a human vacuum. Just as he finishes scrubbing every corner of the room, the girls arrive at school late as usual. The boys can't complain because, unlike them, the girls have superpowers. Yuki, ever the self-loathing goat, reflects on how useless his existence is. Even so, Yuki tries to stay helpful. When one of his buddies needs a button fixed, Yuki whips out his sewing kit and mends it in record time. His friends, however, aren't impressed. They remind him that sewing skills won't get him a girlfriend, which hits him harder than a truck kun. Just when Yuki starts questioning his purpose in life, between sewing buttons and dreaming of a dead-end job, things take a turn for the worse. A strange fog rolls in, and before he can figure out what's happening, Yuki finds himself in Mato, a terrifying alternate dimension filled with monsters known as Shuki. He freaks out and tries to follow the basic rule of Mato mishaps: sit still and wait for rescue. But Yuki being Yuki, manages to attract a Shuki. Panicking, he tries to fight it with a rock. Spoiler alert, it does nothing but annoy the monster. When all hope seems lost, a girl named Kyoka Yuzen swoops in on a Shuki mount to save his sorry life. She's the commander of the 7th Squadron of the Demon Defense Force, and immediately proves why she's the boss. With her sword, she slices through monsters like she's in a low-budget Bleach knockoff. Meanwhile, Yuki, useless as ever, cowers in the background. Kyoka drags him along as her Shuki pet gets shredded, leaving her to fend off the monsters on foot. Luckily, her backup squad, Himari, Nei, and Shushu, arrives just in time to show off their insane peach-powered abilities. Himari transforms her arm into a Gatling gun, Shushu goes full giant mode like she's auditioning for Attack on Titan, and Nei scouts the area like a pro. Yuki watches in awe, finally realizing these girls are leagues above his useless self. The team clears out the Shuki, but Kyoka isn't done with Yuki yet. She decides to use her questionable powers on him. With no better options and a death wish in his heart, Yuki agrees to her insane plan. She tells him to lick her finger, a scene so cringe-worthy it'll haunt you for days. Miraculously, it works. Chains of energy surround Yuki, and he transforms into a demon-powered beast that looks like a Pokemon, and Bleach fusion gone wrong. Kyoka wastes no time exploiting her new servant, commanding Yuki to annihilate the remaining monsters. To everyone's shock, Yuki goes berserk, ripping through Shuki like they're made of paper. He's flying, slicing, and showing off like he's been waiting his whole life for this moment. The squad takes out a massive demon, and Kyoka is thrilled with her new toy. However, there's a catch to her ability. Every time Yuki fights, Kyoka has to reward him in proportion to his effort. That's right, she has to kiss him. Yuki, being the ultimate dweeb, can barely handle it. His brain short-circuits after the first kiss, and he ends up accidentally punching her in the face in pure awkwardness. Despite the chaos, Kyoka sees potential in Yuki. She reveals her grand ambition to become Supreme Commander and eradicate all Shuki. She convinces Yuki to join her, but not as a warrior, because men can't officially join the defense force. Instead, he's stuck as the squad's caretaker, basically a glorified janitor. Yuki's dreams of heroism are crushed as the girls immediately order him to do their chores. While most of them treat him like dirt, Nei shows a bit of kindness, but it's clear that Yuki is at the bottom of the totem pole. As Yuki scrubs floors and does laundry, he realizes his new life might not be so bad. Sure, he's a servant, but at least he gets to fight monsters and receive rewards from Kyoka. His pathetic existence in the real world pales in comparison to his new role in Mato. Yuki vows to make the most of his bizarre situation. The episode ends with Kyoka welcoming him to the squad. Yuki is proudly finishing his cleaning duties. The clown even dares to critique the scenery as if he has any taste. Suddenly, a Shuki, those knockoff hollows from Bleach, tries to ambush him, but but the barrier stops the wannabe ninja. Nei shows up, checking if Yuki survived his own stupidity. She explains that the 7th Squadron has been stuck in the unlucky southwest area of Mat, where shuki pop up more than mosquitoes on a summer night. Mat is an alternate dimension as massive as Tokyo, divided into 8 zones. He then notices a shuki awkwardly hanging out nearby and wonders if they should do something about it. Nei shrugs it off like a pro, saying it's just a small fry. Himari, however, disagrees. She goes full Mega Man, blasting the poor thing with her Gatling gun. Yuki throws a tantrum because she almost hit him, but Himari dismisses him, saying he'd already be Swiss cheese if she wanted to hit him. She orders him to start working on dinner, reminding him he's only there because Kyoka allowed it. Yuki grumbles about his life as a glorified maid, his dreams of heroism crushed under the weight of dirty laundry and cooking pots. Later, when dinner's served, the squad praises his cooking. Even Himari, who's got the attitude of a tsundere, asks for seconds. Yuki basks in their compliments, but is quickly reminded of all his other chores. As he sulks about being a handyman instead of a hero, Kyoka calmly explains he'll join battles when needed, but until then, he's stuck being the team's Cinderella. Himari casually threatens to decapitate him when he whines, and Kyoka adds her 2 cents, warning she'll rip off his manhood if he misbehaves. What a supportive bunch. Later that night, Shushu, who's now the size of a Funko Pop, accuses Yuki of spying on the girls. Yuki tries to explain he was just cleaning, but she doesn't care. She takes an incriminating picture for fun, claiming she likes keeping things interesting. This little gremlin forces him to clean her room, do her laundry, and still finds time to snap misleading photos. Yuki's pitiful attempts to delete the pictures fail spectacularly, leaving him more depressed than ever. As Yuki mopes around like a baby, he stumbles upon Kyoka and Himari training. A shuki appears, and Kyoka obliterates it like it owed her money. Himari is impressed, but Yuki is horrified, realizing he must never get on Kyoka's bad side. Nei announces she's leaving for a meeting, leaving Yuki alone with Shushu, the queen of torment. That night, Shushu forces Yuki to give her a massage, revealing she grew up without a father and came to Mat for excitement. To pass the time, they play video games. Yuki, the genius he is, bets he'll win. Predictably, he loses every match and even his shirt. Just as things couldn't get worse, a massive shuki appears to attack the barrier. Yuki, in true cowardly fashion, wants to stay back, but Shushu grows into her jumbo size and goes to fight. The battle turns intense as Shushu pummels the shuki. She smashes it into the ground and crushes it beneath her feet, flexing her massive strength. However, her power starts draining fast, and just when she celebrates her victory, another, bigger shuki shows up. This one's a fusion of several monsters, and it's ready to throw hands. Shushu tries to grow even bigger but fails, leaving her vulnerable. The monster grabs her, landing a brutal punch. Yuki, being the bootlicker he is, literally this time, comes up with a ridiculous plan to transform. He remembers that touching Kyoka's belongings triggered his power, so he runs to the laundry room, licking her gloves and stuffing his face in her shirt. Nothing works until he finds her boots. As the monster continues its rampage, Yuki, in a moment of utter desperation, licks the boot and finally triggers his transformation. Power surges through his body, and he rushes to the battlefield. Shushu, now struggling against the monster, gets some much-needed backup as Yuki unleashes a devastating kick, obliterating the shuki's head. Shushu scolds him for being reckless, but Yuki claims he couldn't back down after being called a wimp. Back at the dorm, Kyoka patches Yuki up, and the squad mocks him for being useless after just a few minutes of fighting. Kyoka lectures Shushu about underestimating opponents and punishes her by assigning her Yuki's chores. Kyoka drags Yuki through an interdimensional gateway with all the grace of someone lugging a sack of potatoes. As they arrive, Yuki marvels at how insane this traveling business is, especially since it felt like just a 50-minute car ride back home. Kyoka leaves him alone, telling him to enjoy the fresh air, something Yuki doesn't get often, probably because nobody willingly hangs out with a guy this clueless. Meanwhile, back in Mano, Nei learns Kyoka took Yuki through the Amagata passage. Shocked at first, Nei remembers that today is a tragic day. Kyoka takes Yuki to a cemetery and starts sharing some dark history. Years ago, a bunch of shuki, the nastiest demons around, invaded her world. Among them was a terrifying creature with a single horn she nicknamed Unihorn. Unihorn went on a rampage, destroying her hometown and leaving a trail of destruction. While the Demon Defense Force managed to wipe out most of the shuki, Unihorn slipped through the cracks, retreating to another world. Kyoka is still furious and vows to take Unicorn down, dragging Yuki into her vendetta. She tells him to be ready for when the day comes, but honestly, Yuki looks more ready to fall over than fight. Yuki, being his typical airheaded self, decides it's parfait time. He convinces Kyoka to stop at a nearby cafe famous for its desserts, waving pictures of the parfaits like a bribe. Kyoka, initially annoyed, caves in after seeing how amazing the parfait looks. Yuki reminisces about his late sister, who always encouraged him to try new things, including cooking and cleaning. Meanwhile, Kyoka is busy devouring her parfait like it's the last meal she'll ever eat. Their little dessert break is cut short by an emergency call from Mano. Kyoka forces Yuki to transform into his demon form, which, hilariously, doubles as a glorified transportation system. Back in Mano, Kyoka learns that a massive Shuki nest has appeared, with hundreds of demons congregating in a crater. Even though she's stunned, Yuki is hyped, ready to charge in like the world's dumbest superhero. The team prepares for battle, with Kyoka reminding Yuki to wait for her signal before doing anything stupid, which is basically his specialty. At the crater, the team's strategy is to let the Shuki merge into one giant monster, making it easier to take them down. Things are going smoothly until a beam of destruction suddenly blasts one of their trucks. The source? None other than the infamous Unicorn, now accompanied by a creepy, talking girl. Kyoka immediately recognizes Unicorn and goes berserk, ready to settle the score. The girl easily fends off their attacks and reveals that she's searching for her brother. She explains how her once sweet sibling turned into a rascal as he grew older, and she delights in beating him into shape. Yuki starts wondering if she's a Shuki or something else entirely, but before he can think too hard, the merged Shuki interrupts her monologue. Furious at being interrupted, the girl obliterates the giant demon in seconds, feeding its remains to Unicorn like a snack. Kyoka finally realizes this girl might be the supreme commander of the Shuki. Yuki, meanwhile, is too busy panicking as the girl gets uncomfortably close to him. She's shocked to discover that he's not a Shuki, but an actual human. Kyoka jumps back into the fight, managing to push the girl and Unicorn back. They make a strategic retreat, but Kyoka's rage boils over. She wants revenge so badly that she nearly jeopardizes her team. Yuki, surprisingly, helps calm her down, focusing on getting their injured squad mates to safety. Back at the dorm, Kyoka reflects on her mistakes. She acknowledges that her anger almost cost her everything, and decides to prioritize her team's well-being. Yuki, on the other hand, gets rewarded in the weirdest way possible, by being stepped on. That's right, Kyoka stomps on him, and instead of being offended, he looks genuinely terrified by his own psyche. Later, as Yuki cooks dinner, he reveals that the girl's face reminded him of his sister. He's confused and torn, unable to understand how she could have survived, or why she would be allied with the Shuki. Kyoka dismisses the idea, saying it's impossible for a human to turn into a Shuki. Still, Yuki can't shake the feeling that there's more to this mystery. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl, revealed to be Aoba Wakura, returns to her base. She's convinced Yuki is her long-lost brother, but is puzzled by his Shuki-like appearance. She finds their reunion amusing, despite the chaos it caused. As if things couldn't get worse for Yuki, he accidentally walks in on Himari in the bath. Just as she's about to end his miserable existence, a new pair of characters appear through a gateway. These newcomers, Izumo and Isuma, are from the 6th squad and are very interested in Yuki. Lucky him, more people to complicate his already chaotic life. Everyone gathers to meet Isumo, who thinks Kyoka is a boss for having a servant that brews killer coffee. Meanwhile, the Supreme Commander has dropped a bombshell about a new nasty humanoid Shuki wreaking havoc. Isumo's here to talk about a big change. The Demon Defense Force squadrons will start working together. About time, considering they've been running around like headless chickens. Azuma, the resident pain in the neck, decides it's the perfect time to mock Himari for fainting like a scared kitten in their last battle. She calls her a disgrace to their family, and outright tells her to quit her dreams. Smooth. But let's not miss Azuma's moment of wisdom as she admits that the humanoid Shuki is no joke. Even Kyoka agrees. With her endless patience and genius ideas, suggests an inter-squad exhibition match to settle this nonsense. Kyoka insists on single combat, and Isumo gives her blessing. When preparations are underway, Himari approaches Kyoka and asks for help. Kyoka warns her it won't be easy, but Himari, determined to prove she's not a complete failure, is all in. She then turns to her unfortunate servant, Yuki, who's basically roped into this madness for the sole purpose of her victory. After cooking a meal for the girls, he's praised by Himari, who calls him a great servant. poor guy just wonders how his life went so sideways. Himari reveals her trump card. Her real ability isn't just turning body parts into weapons. No, it's called learning. By using her phone like some sort of trading card game, she can copy other people's powers. Yuki, while impressed, can't help but notice how absurd this all sounds. Himari proudly selects Kyoka's ability, but she barely knows how it works. She assumes it'll just mean doing extra chores like cleaning and laundry. Sure, because using superpowers should definitely feel like being in a maid cafe. As they train, Shuki attacks, and Himari makes Yuki transform. He's not as strong as usual, but ridiculously fast, which is new. In his altered state, Yuki punches the Shuki like a caffeinated boxer, while Himari gleefully watches, thinking he might actually help her beat her sister. She is, of course, blissfully unaware that Yuki might break his spine doing her dirty work. Himari explains that her learning ability isn't perfect. It's got compatibility issues. Some abilities degrade to ridiculous levels. For example, using someone's growing power only makes her nose grow an inch. Yuki rolls his eyes as Himari shrugs off the side effects of Kyoka's ability. She's too busy trying to prove herself to care.